She danced with someone else, and in that instant, it felt as though my world collapsed around me. It's strange how something as innocent as a dance can carry the weight of 1,000 daggers when it comes from the person you love most. Her name was Emily. We had been together for 6 years, building what I thought was an unshakable life together in a quiet corner of Chicago. She used to look at me like I was everything she needed, and I believed we were the kind of couple who could withstand anything. That illusion began to crack the night of her company's annual gala. Emily had spent days preparing, choosing her dress, practicing her speech, making sure every detail was perfect. When we walked in, heads turned. She looked stunning, radiant even, and I couldn't stop smiling. For a while, I was just proud to be beside her. But as the evening went on, something felt off. Her laughter rang out a little too often. Her hand lingered a little too long when someone complimented her. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining things. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend hovering at her shoulder. Then came the moment that burned itself into my memory. The band began to play a slow song, and before I could even ask her to dance, I saw her on the floor, her hand in someone else's. Daniel, her new manager. He was tall, confident, with that smug charm that always seemed rehearsed. And there she was, leaning into him, lost in the music. I froze. The room was filled with laughter and music, but all I could hear was the thudding of my own heart. Her smile, the one that once belonged only to me, was now shining for another man. When the song ended, she came back, her cheeks flushed and eyes bright. "It was just a dance," she said quickly, before I could even speak. I forced a smile and nodded. That night, lying beside her, I realized a quiet doubt had taken root. Over the next few weeks, that doubt grew into something heavier. Emily started working later, missing dinners, claiming endless meetings and after-hours drinks. Our conversations shrank into silence. The small gestures that once defined our love, the soft brush of her hand, the way she'd rest her head on my shoulder, vanished without a word. When I asked her one evening if something was going on with Daniel, she laughed, called me paranoid, and reminded me he was her boss. But the laughter didn't reach her eyes. I tried to trust her. I told myself she was just stressed, that work was demanding. But trust isn't blind. It bleeds slowly, drop by drop. Then came the night everything changed. It was pouring outside, and she'd promised to be home by 8. When the clock hit 11 with no text, no call, I started to panic. I was about to drive to her office when I heard voices outside. I looked through the window and saw her, standing under a street lamp, sharing an umbrella with Daniel. They were close, laughing softly, their faces inches apart. It wasn't a kiss, but it didn't need to be. The look between them said everything. When she finally came in, dripping wet, she smiled like nothing was wrong. "Traffic was insane," she said, shaking off her coat. I wanted to confront her, to shout, to demand the truth. But I couldn't. I just nodded, swallowing every word burning inside me. That silence became a wall between us. In the weeks that followed, I became a stranger in my own life. I noticed everything. The faint cologne on her scarf, the way her phone stayed face down, the sudden light in her eyes when a message popped up. I didn't want to believe it, but denial can only last so long. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I followed her one afternoon, parking across from her office. Hours later, she emerged, Daniel right beside her. They walked to a small cafe, laughing, brushing shoulders, completely absorbed in each other. I sat in the car watching, the rain smearing the glass like tears I refused to shed. It wasn't anger that consumed me then. It was grief. Grief for the woman I loved, for the life I thought we shared. That night, when she came home, I didn't mention it. I still hoped I was wrong. But fate had other plans. A few nights later, I got a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was quiet, shaking. "Is this James?" "I'm Claire. I'm Daniel's girlfriend." My chest tightened. She told me everything, his sudden distance, the secret texts, the late-night calls. Then she said the words that ended everything. "It's Emily. He's been seeing your wife." When Emily walked through the door that night, I was waiting. My voice was steady when I said, "I know." She froze, the color draining from her face. "No, what?" she whispered. "About you and Daniel," I said, her eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked under the weight of her lies. She dropped to her knees, crying, saying it wasn't what I thought, that it wasn't physical, that it just happened. But betrayal doesn't need to be physical to break something sacred. It's enough when the heart goes where it shouldn't. In the days that followed, she begged for forgiveness. She deleted his number, promised therapy, swore she'd change. I wanted to believe her, but something inside me had already died. Still, I stayed for a while, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of admitting that the person I trusted most had destroyed me. Then, one evening, Daniel himself showed up at my door. He looked broken. "She ended it," he said, "but you deserve to know the truth. It wasn't just talking." She kissed me. Hearing it from him shattered whatever pieces of hope I had left. That night, when Emily came home, I told her quietly, "You didn't just end our marriage. You ended the version of me that believed in you." She sobbed, begged me to stay, to remember the love we once had. But love without trust is just memory. So I packed a bag and left. The first few weeks alone were brutal. The silence in my apartment was deafening, but slowly it became peace. I realized that though Emily was still alive, the woman I loved had vanished long before I walked out the door. Weeks later, she showed up at my doorstep, pale, broken, eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Daniel left me. I have nothing." For a moment, the urge to comfort her nearly won. But then I remembered every night of doubt, every moment of pain. I looked at her and said, "I loved you more than anything, Emily, but when you chose him, you lost me and the best parts of yourself." She cried, but I didn't reach for her. I closed the door gently, ending the story for good. That night, standing alone, I finally understood. Betrayal doesn't just destroy. It reveals. It forces you to face your strength, your worth, and the truth that some people are meant to teach you pain so you can learn peace. She danced with another man, and I thought that was the end. In a way, it was, but it was also the beginning of finally finding myself.